I'm joined by Feature Creeper and Draco Wolfie, our character artist. Feature Creeper is our lead character artist, and Draco Wolfie is a character artist and a very talented one at that. All right, and without further ado, Draco Wolfie, please take it away.
Hello, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about animated meshes, which are basically the various bodies and clothing parts we're given to you guys so that it's easier to make games and you don't have to be a wild character artist to still have people that look cool and various non-player characters running around your game. So I'm going to be kind of showing just in general how you can use them and where you can find them. I've already got a project open in Core right now. And the main part you're going to want to go to is animated meshes under core content. And there's a variety of them, but the ones we've been adding to recently are under Humanoid 1 and Humanoid 2. And this is where you can get like the Humanoid 1 is the people with breasts, I suppose, and Humanoid 2 is people without breasts. And you've got different bodies. We're adding to this over time and different clothing pieces for each of them. And I made a couple, so you can just drag them out and pop them down. And then you can over here in your properties tab is where you'll see all the many different things you can change on them. But the main parts you're going to want to look at for just attaching another piece is you'll see here's the pants. It shows up right there and you've got all the different materials you can change with the colors on them. And then these other mesh slots are where you can add other parts. So I'm going to put this shirt here and you drag it in and then poof, it is right there.
Yeah, and this is the newest setup that we have basically compared to what we previously had was, singular piece with 4 material slots, and you could, only customize certain parts of them, unfortunately. And that was sort of a bummer for, I think, the creators and also for us. So we've basically gone back and revamped this, and it's been out for a few patches now, but we wanted to really highlight it and kind of show a few things and eventually talk about at the end of the stream. We're going to talk about what the future for the animated mesh system is and some of the new ideas that we have to hopefully introduce for you guys.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be going over several parts of it. So let's see. I'm going to throw in a body here. You also notice if you just double click on this, it'll show up a picker this way. So you can either drag things from core content into the spot, or you can double click it and then get all your options there.
Yeah, this is my favorite way of finding the stuff, by the way, too, because you can filter what you're searching for just right in there. You can double click just to see the list of stuff to pick from. I really think the picker is undervalued or not shown enough. So I always try to show it whenever I'm streaming or doing anything like that because it's super handy.
Let's see the next cool part that you can do. So you notice there's all these materials here you can do stuff with. And if you want, you can edit these materials themselves and make a custom material out of them. Let's see. I'm trying to find which one is my favorite out of these.
Mm-hmm.
Does this one do what I think
some
it
does? Some of them are pretty basic,
Oops,
similar,
yep.
And I'd say very close to just the plastic that we already have in core, right? It's just we've reused that here for her plastic, but some of them do have special features like Sierra's going to show here.
Yeah. So this one here, it might be hard to see at first, but there's a subtle scale pattern here, and you can mess with it to turn the numbers down and then the scales get bigger. And with this being a custom material, you then can put it on anything else that you want.
Other stuff,
a cube or the side of a barn. Yeah.
Yes. So primarily the main material changes come from the environment team typically, right? But we're basically trying to use their system as well with the character assets here. And so we'll be subtly adding new materials to the catalog, I guess, but in this way. So if you spin off a custom copy of the sci-fi armor with the scales, you can use it on whatever, just like any other core material.
And then you can, of course, also drag in any material to plop onto these things. So you can, have a camouflage, what is this? The Cobra character top?
Yeah, this is the most powerful. This is the most powerful part of it, I think. Besides having multiple parts now. Instead of only having 4 materials, now you're getting roughly, we're trying to keep a limit to about 4 materials per mesh piece. And some of them will have 5, if they have a special glowing part or something like that, and it kind of just makes sense for them to have that extra material. We're trying to, though, make them, we're really trying to balance between performance and accessibility and customization. So that's 3 really, you usually only have 2 of the things, but we're trying to really make sure we make them balanced and also have variety, right? So they're not just all the same, that they're kind of, you're able to satisfy multiple different game types or genres this way, right? By mixing and matching them.
Yes, indeed. Alrighty. And also, with that, I kind of made just a couple various characters using this system. Hilariously, I like this Jelly Man and Corner Man. It's just the zombie with some weird material settings, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And various mix and matching of different military parts, changing all the different colors on them, plopping different gold materials, or you can also get some weird textures if you like turn up the UV tiling really high and it makes everything really small, and you can kind of get like a semi-realistic fabric texture.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Some people I went to high school with. This person kind of looks like a Pokemon trainer to me. And then also, if we wanted to move into, if you say wanted to equip something onto a character, this little weird dude here is actually made using Standard Combo's NPC system. And I just grabbed it from community content. It is probably the very top thing. Yep.
Yeah.
And all I did was I just swapped the existing animated mesh that was in there, like the previous version, with a new version. I just plopped in a new skeleton. And wait, let's see. If I press play, then you'll see it's going through animations. And I put these little cones and shapes on it because I'm kind of adding fur to it and building it out. It's not a done character, but it is an animated mesh with things equipped. And you'll notice in the hierarchy over here, which is where that skeleton lives, underneath the client context and all these, the costume script itself and the rig, there are these different folders that are the bone that everything is attached to. So like all that hair on the arm right there is in this left arm prop folder. And then when the script runs on play, then it just attaches that to that bone. And then when the character animates, it's all in place. And that way you can get all sorts of weird combinations.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the first questions we got when we released the new system a few patches ago was like attaching things to them, and it basically works the exact same way as it used to. Like the all the costume scripts from before should work just fine. Basically, there shouldn't really be any issues there. The one thing that's important to note about this, which I guess we can segue. Let's see here. You made some pre-made outfits. Yeah, so with attaching the parts, we use this Lua script. It's really common in the community content or in games, in the NP Standard Combos NPC kit. A lot of the community have used it, and it should still work just fine. But we've definitely identified a huge amount of the like struggle with that. Like, you know, the different folders. Where do you find the joint names for each folder? How do you get them in place unless you grabbed the original kit and it already has all the folders in place? It's sort of a big struggle. And so one of the big things we're trying to do is fix that with basically a skeletal hierarchy under the animated mesh. So what will basically happen is when you select an animated mesh to, you know, edit it and customize it, you will actually see a skeleton hierarchy of each bone in the hierarchy. Where you're used to seeing things in a core. And under that, you won't be able to modify those bones. They'll stay in place. They will have a transform and a rotation, more or less. And you can drag meshes under there and zero out the meshes, and they will be basically sitting on the bone now. And from there, you could move them around. You know, you could move your meshes around and place them how you want. You know, there's no hard date on that when that's going to be coming out, but it's, you know, in progress, and we're exploring it right now, and we're hopefully going to be able to release it soon and get some feedback on it, and hopefully add things like mirroring, you know, from left bones to right bones, clear out the bones, all kinds of useful features that like make building customized kit bash characters even easier. You know, maybe Sarah, if you select one of them real quick and show your hierarchy view. Oh yeah, you have it over there on the, yeah. So under one of these, right, you'd have a huge list of some unique, a new, I don't want to call it a new core object because you're not going to drag them into the scene or anything, but you'll essentially have a sort of uneditable skeleton. So if you drug in one for, say, a human, you would have, you know, all of the human sockets there. Mm-hmm. And I also will share that we're working on, you know, more creatures, and we're going to try and make them in the same style where there are multiple parts. So for instance, if you drug in a dragon, you would have, you know, 4 mesh slots, maybe heads, wings, bodies, and you would see the dragon skeleton in the hierarchy right there that you could edit, attach things to, right? Attach more spikes, attach more scales, whatever you wanted.
Yeah, as opposed to this one that's just like a whole little solid thing.
Yeah, and so that little guy's like a little what we call mobs, and so we're working to like decide how, if we're going to port even the, like say the raptor and the dragon, we're going to port them to this new system and maybe add some gear for them. We're also working on just brand new ones, and we plan to trickle out lots of these things. Well, not lots, but trickle them out as a steady release, kind of, right? So like every patch or every other patch, there should be some new content going in. And we're also starting to like really, like I said, kind of grow the feature just bigger, right? So it's not just a single thing you drag in and maybe you can change colors on. You can get the skeleton in the hierarchy that lets you customize easier. You get more types of mobs. And we're also trying to work with your guys' feedback on making them more customizable. Like I said, we're trying to balance between easy to customize, so accessible, and also performance. So if you can put a lot of these in your scene, that's better and more fun, probably, right? For like zombie games and things. But if we make them, have 100 material slots on them, obviously that's not going to be very good for performance. So we kind of have to balance these things. One of the things we've just done, I think we could, Tasha, we could transition to my screen if you want real quick.
Okay, and switching over to your screen. Boop.
2, 1, we're here.
Okay. And then, can I interrupt with a question? Actually,
sure. Yeah. What we got? Do we have a few? Why don't we do a few?
Yes, we do have a few, or at least one. This is from Diversity Craft. He says, "Hey, I just joined. Would there be any feature on animating bones using an animation tool or via a script to create our own animations?"
Not likely in the near future, I would say. There's a number of challenges with that. Like, we've definitely talked about stuff and thought about stuff, but there's like a ton of challenges with just how we present that, how we make that, how we release that. But I won't say never, like you'll never be able to animate characters in Core or something. I don't want to say that, because there's a number of other ways to use Lua and use external things that we saw some guy who made an awesome exporter from Blender or Maya. It exported out transforms and keys, and then you could use them in Lua to make things move. It was crazy awesome. Each one of those things, your mileage may vary on like, how performant it is and stuff. And we definitely have heard that people want to be able to animate stuff. We definitely like understand that, and we're working on different things, but I definitely can't give any more information on that, because we just honestly don't really have much other than that we've talked about it and we've identified it. But one thing, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was going to say, I would say, which I say twice, I would say to recommend animations that come to mind maybe in the feedback channel if you're like, wow, I really need specific animation X. I mean, you obviously wouldn't get it immediately, but then we can know what kinds of animations people want for their games. Like, I don't know, maybe if you need a petting the dog animation.
Right, yes, if you've identified like, oh man, this genre of game does not have these kinds of animations, like can we get some sort of animations for like more reloads or different weapon types or whatever. Those are things to post up in the feedback, and like we get the feedback alerts not only on Discord, we see them, we get them internally, and we talk about them and discuss them like pretty regularly. So it's definitely very feedback driven process.
And then there's people like me who I just like lurk and am reading that feedback channel every day. So
I do too. I browse it and skim the stuff for character related stuff and try to get things going. But one of the features that we just added, and we decided after listening to some feedback and doing some stuff, I'm going to show you here. This is not in yet. It is coming in a future patch very soon, but you can kind of maybe make out what's going on here. We've gone and made it so that hair is now a slot that's customizable. So I'll minimize these other mesh slots here. Actually, do we have another question, Tasha? Other than the animations one, hopefully that's it's not a great answer because it's like, yeah, sorry, no. But I will say that there are resources. There are resources like in the community for people who have animated stuff with Lua before. Unfortunately, right now it's just not going to be character bone specific. Like you could do whatever animation you want. Jordan did show some prototype stuff from before that was like IK handles, and you could move those around, and the hands would go to them likely. And if when we get that out.
Ooh, yeah, okay, that's what really Dan Fessler mentioned in chat, and that was the next comment really cool. I was going to mention. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, it's going to be super powerful to be able to, like, you could put the hand on the gun wherever you want, on the steering wheel of a car, I I wouldn't be surprised if someone comes up with some sort of weird climbing hacky thing or whatever, but that's going to be really
we're
powerful.
all about the
Okay, 'cause
experiments.
the next comment after Dan's was requesting a climbing animation.
Interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned that. Yes. Yeah. I mean, again, not really like there's no like official roadmap or date or anything like that, but climbing, swimming, we already have swimming obviously, but like reassessing it or thinking about it, like all those things we're talking about internally. Like, trust me, we also want a climbing animation too. And so that might be something in the, future, right? For sure.
All right, back to business. That's enough questions for you.
Again, put the questions in the chat for sure, because I do like to try and answer them as best I can. But basically, I'll select one of these characters. This is Camille, and you can see he's actually wearing Ramesh's hair. So the way we've set this up, we've tried to, again, accessibility-wise, you drag, maybe he's not a good example. One sec, because he's bald by default. Let's go to men. Let's go to men, right? I'll move this over here. This is my little hair matrix. Enter the hair matrix. Okay, so I drag Xavier or Min into my scene here, and he will just have hair by default. That is his haircut that he comes with. He's good to go. When I equip another hair in the mesh slot too, or any mesh slot really, when I pop in a new, say I wanted his hair to be different, I can drag one in, and that's Xavier's again. Let's go to Kava's hair. So if I drag in Kava's hair here, it's going to hide the original for you and show you this new hair. So this is just one step in trying to make them more customizable, so you can make more variations on the same set of like 12 or 15 characters that we'll have out right away, like in the following next patch or something, or coming patch after that. We'll be continuing to add bodies. Like I think this is a mini spoiler. You can see the skeleton. We have a zombie. We also have a orc. The orc character body is getting added in, right? So we're going to have more variety. Similar for gals, Humanoid 1, we'll be adding in more and more body types. Each, like I said, kind of steady trickle is what our goal is, right? So sometimes we might be working on more feature-based stuff, and that's what will come out in the patch. Sometimes we'll be doing like a content drop of like, more hair. And also with hairs, we also have helmets here, right? And they hide the hair as well, and they hide the ears if they're like a wraparound helmet. That's also, we'll be probably releasing props very soon too. So some of the character props you've seen on characters in the cosmetics, like backpacks, hats, things like that don't need to go around the whole face. We're going to try and make them as static props. So you'll be able to put a hat on either rig, because currently some of these hats are locked to the rig they're on. So you'll only see them on like the Humanoid 2 or the Humanoid 1 rig. And there's some like specific technical reasons for that we might, so that we can offer it to you in a really cool, skinned, nice way. We'll probably lock it to the rig that it's on, but we'll likely try to make another version that is static, and or we'll always try to opt to offer the static version. So a cowboy hat, right? A cowboy hat can be on either rig. It's hard attached to the head. It doesn't have to animate with the face or anything like that. Something like a beard is a little harder for us, especially with our face system. So we probably won't offer the beard on both rigs necessarily, right? Or eventually maybe we would have another beard on one of the other rigs or something, but it's a lot more difficult for us. So rather than focus on completely matching everything across both rigs, instead we're trying to focus wider on just like more content in general across both rigs, right? And so similar to the gals you can see here, or the Humanoid 1 rig, I'm sorry, we have all the hairs swappable and customizable. And so there's a little trick I wanted to show that I maybe cut Sarah off, or she didn't get to.
All good. We still got plenty of time.
If I take a character like Yasmin and I clear out her hair here, her hair will come back. It's there. I can still actually get rid of it. So if I just want to make a character bald, for instance, I can actually apply the invis material to any part of the character to get rid of the hair if I want, right? And so that works on anybody, basically, on any material slot, right? I can actually get rid of this guy's body. This is actually a fun one I like to do. I'll do like the skeleton. Oops, where's he at? Skeleton. And then I will do another character on there. And that will usually result in some really weird stuff. You can do it, and with certain combinations.
Oh my god,
it's horrible.
Jordan has shown certain combinations that do work, but what's actually more fun to do, I think, is you can invis certain parts, and you could get something like this. Like you could do eyeballs
skeleton
on here
with eyeballs.
That's what I want. Yeah, skeleton with eyeballs basically is the goal here. So you can get something like that basically if you wanted. And similarly, there are some meshes set up where like you could invis the whole shoe because it happens to be a singular material slot. Not all of them are. Some of them are like, the rubber is one material, the sole is another material, pants are one material, etc. But there's a lot of like freedom to mess around and try different stuff is like the main point I would like to make. Is that you can definitely poke around with these things, and that we're excited to keep growing the feature. Like as we put them out just recently, they didn't have customizable hairs, and the hairs weren't accessible, like weren't available as mesh options. But after thinking more about it, reading some feedback, we basically went back and decided to delay this next little batch of them, and instead go back to all the ones we have released and make them with swappable hair basically as an option. So if anybody has put them into their game, they should still function as normal because they still just come with hair. But now if you do feel like you want to make some more variety, you'll be able to go in and do that, which is, I think, going to be awesome to see what people come up with.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else feature related. The one final thing I would say, do we have any more questions, Sasha?
Mostly people just really excited about all the customization options, and Sino had a question that was, while thinking of features to add to core, do you ever feature creep them?
That's the only thing I do. Admittedly, yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I do in our meetings and then when we're deciding on stuff. And I'm like, well, could it also do this? Like, actually, just the other day, it was like, well, this is a rat. We're gonna make a rat, right? I'm like, well, could you also put a lizard on that? And there was a lot of talk about it, and some discussions were had. And so, we definitely have big plans for like creatures to have the same exact system, more or less, like where it's multiple mesh parts. So you can be excited for those. Again, there's not like a hard street date for like when we're going to release them, but we're working on a dragon. We're working on a golem, big golem character, so you can get some more like fantasy creatures into your games. They're customizable, right? So you have a stone golem with roots as an interior. You could swap those to crystals and do water and make an ice golem. You could make a lava golem. We'll continue to release different golem parts, probably, right? Like same thing for most of these. Like basically, we're going to release the main creature, and then every couple of releases they'll get a new kind of retrofit kit, I guess you could call it, right? Like a different kind of dragon, right? You could swap onto the main body or something. That's the goal, at least. The final kind of future feature, I will say, is like one of the big goals that we're hoping for to like really turn this into like a game changer, no pun intended, is being able to customize the player using these using this feature, right? So you could make up a little outfit here. You could make up a little outfit, customize it with different camos. I guess you could look at Sierra's screen if you want, but because she's doing something actually.
Should we?
Boop well, I was prepping for my next thing that I wanted to say, so I actually spaced out a split second of what you were just saying.
Well, I was just the goal would be like you could drag out a mesh like Sierra's done here. You could make different camo on it, set it to red or blue team or whatever you want, and then in the future there would hopefully be a method to apply this to a player, right? So you could make everybody on one team a pirate and everybody on the other team a skeleton. That's like one of our bigger long-term goals. Like we're kind of just talking about that and getting that stuff figured out, like how it would happen with proof of concept and different stuff like that. There's some challenges with it, but we're pretty much figuring it out. And so that's something that we could expect to see, because that's been like a major request of people, is being able to like make someone be in a costume. And so we've heard that, and we're basically trying to enable more customization and make the avatar like almost also more of a feature, right? Breathe life into that as well.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. Actually, 3 more questions. First one's from me. Sierra, can I boop to your stream?
Oh yes, you may boop to my stream.
Boop away.
Absolutely acceptable.
Booping. Excellent. All right, now for the real questions. Verbose Toast asks, can I make a golem made out of other smaller golems?
You technically could,
I
yeah.
know that
Like
name.
the idea would be, right, you drag in the golem and you'd see its skeleton in the hierarchy, so it's very easy to attach new meshes to. And actually, that actually brings me to a point. The golem is actually going to be primarily a skeleton, almost skeleton only, with a few skin mesh parts. And then it's going to be primarily made out of rocks that will add to core as well. So there'll be more rocks in core. We'll be giving you a template of the golem constructed out of the rocks with the skinned mesh ready to go. And then, yeah, you could easily swap that to be more golems if you really wanted to. That actually does bring me to another point, is that maybe Sarah can cover, is the templates we're going to try to make. We're going to basically release some character templates.
Yes, so currently, basically, as you maybe drag in a character, it's just like the naked character or just the piece itself. But we are contemplating making entire templates, so instead of like dragging out just a piece, maybe you drag out this entire dude all set up like that, and probably not in a dancing pose, but maybe.
for some people, just being able to dig into the different pieces is really awesome, and people are really all about that. But one of the goals for, again, an upcoming release is, instead of maybe more content, we're going to release a characters folder, and inside that, under like sci-fi or military, you could find 3 or 4 little soldiers that have already been pre-customized for you, mixed matched hair, they've got some gear on them, maybe they're holding a gun, whatever. Then you look under sci-fi, you got some sci-fi like denizens, maybe under military or under sports, you got the football player or team kind of thing. And you could just drag those in, and you'll have a guy or gal right there ready to customize and mess with, swap their gear, swap their clothes, versus having to drag in a skeleton, then find 4 parts you like. We want to have the parts there, but we also want to provide templates that are just cool characters. And we'll hope that the community will make cool characters and obviously share those in community content as one of the goals, right, for us.
Yes, get some more characters in that section of community content. There's only like 127 things in there.
Oh my gosh, I like to know it exactly.
I was just looking at it. 128, actually. Ooh, it changed in that time period. That might have been me earlier. I did have another thing I wanted to say, unless there was another question.
There is even more questions than before, because someone asked one in the meantime. So let's see, I'm going to circle back to Diversity Crafts question. Would it be possible to customize our characters in-game with skins from the shop?
Customize characters in-game with skins from the shop.
And then I'm guessing Diversity Craft, you can clarify in chat, but what I think he means is using like the characters in our store.
Yeah, so basically one of the goals is, from now on, whenever we do make a player cosmetic that will be sold in the store or whatever, or given away or earned, whenever we make those, we're going to aim, if it's possible for us, if it's basically, there's some technical challenges when we take one from like fancy player to animated mesh, simpler animated mesh. There are some challenges there, but whenever we can, we're going to try and convert them over. With exceptions for like super rare ones or fancy event ones or something like that we gave away or sold, right? Those ones, maybe they stay as just in the player side of things. But I guess I'm not sure exactly if this answers like what the exact question is. Like, if you're looking for like a UI system where you could dress up characters from inside the game, like from their options.
Oh, he did clarify. He said like using the skins bought from the shop and apply it to an NPC. Like you said before, a team of pirates versus a team of Wukongs.
Yeah, so like the goal is that we're going to try and release as much player cosmetic stuff as animated mesh stuff. That is the goal, right? So I would hope you would be able to, with the maybe the pending exception of the thing was like too technically complex on the player side to like adequately make it a animated mesh. There's like all kinds of things like bone count and VFX and different things we have to consider when we port them over. If it's not one of those like very fancy ones or super rare ones or something where we just choose not to, then yeah, like you would be able to make everybody on one team a pirate and you'll be able to make everybody on their team a Wukong. Actually, I can probably show you. This is, like I said, this is technically, I'm in dev right now looking at this stuff on Whip, but I have Wukong right here, actually, as you talk about him. So this will be animated mesh you could customize. And actually you could take his hair off and stuff and give him a different hair if you want.
Oh, and then I should
So it's
probably
on the way.
boop over to your screen then, huh?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, do it. Boop away. And then we'll go back. Yeah. So you can actually see right here. is Wukong. We've already converted him. We've actually already converted him over, and so you'll be able to set him.
With Kava's hair.
Yeah, and I gave him Kava's hair for fun, and you'll be able to dress him up. And longer term, like I mentioned, you would eventually be able to set the player to be this costume, hopefully, right? Or you could have them keep their avatar and wear just these clothes instead, right? It's like that's kind of like what we're trying to. That's trying to see what we're like trying to spec out with the feature. Like you could build a costume that the character they've already chosen wears, or you can completely overwrite them to just be skeletons and pirates or whatever, right? That's sort of a longer term goal.
Okay, and then we have one more question. This was from Sino. Will we ever be able to change materials at runtime? And this was plus one in the chat as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I don't want to make dig anybody's grave by promising that, or saying that, but I believe it's like, again, I think it was even on the roadmap, maybe or something, maybe not, but I believe that we've talked about that internally and they're trying to work on that like as an actual feature. There's just some challenges to it, but I think it's being worked on. But there's no timeline that I know of or anything like that.
Complicated but desired.
Yeah, we all want it too, right? Obviously, it'd change a lot of things to be much better. I got some permission from Dan to show some stuff. So like if you're booped to my screen, you can see what the golem might look like when it comes out, right? So yeah, so he's going to be a cool little stone golem guy. And like I said, we're going to try and offer other parts eventually, other parts kits that you could go on top of that skeleton. You can imagine this guy would have a skeleton under him. He would have an animation set for how a golem should move and stomp around and attack. And you could make your own golems. You could use our custom pieces here, or you'll be able to, just use the skeleton and use VFX or.
And like you said earlier, it is like made out of separate parts. So like the golem would be individual stones you could use for stone purposes.
Yeah, I'll show a little bit of this too, I guess. Speaking of the dragon basically being one of the ones that will be coming at some point. It's pretty cool. I think it's going to be a really awesome like creature to see in games, stomping around and what people can make like boss logic for it and stuff using Lua. I'm pretty excited to see. And it will also, like I said early on, it will follow the same sort of like, the goal is for it to follow a part system where it's customizable, changeable. You could swap its materials. You can make it a gold dragon, a blue dragon, whatever, right? Yeah.
Yep. Is there, I do have some other things. They're not as fancy big feature things, but there are just a couple other details I wanted to go over.
Sierra, I feel like I should let you know your camera did freeze. So
I noticed it the second it happened. It was when I did a big movement. I'm not gonna mess with it though, because last time I did it, it made my it made me leave the call. So at least it froze on a happy face. It looks like. So
I removed it from the stream, but let me know.
There we go.
It's fine if you want it back up on your happy face. Anywho, I'm gonna move over to your stream. Boop. And
alrighty. Hello, folks. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that in these materials that we have on characters, so you'll see just by default there is the single color you can change. So I can poof make it red, or just poof make the pants are at the top. Just change one color of the pants. But if you were to, this is the case with all materials, but I just want to extra point it out on the characters. In the custom material version of things, there are sometimes extra colors to change even more things. So for example, this material changes the pants, but there is also a spot to change the little boot socks that go with it. So there is even more color customization possible within the materials themselves.
Yeah, and
same on the shirt.
We've tried to keep it consistent, like detail 1, 2, and 3. It's sort of hard to make each one say like this is the arm badge, this is the glove. So because we're using the environment system that has like the sort of material system you're used to with like base material share, detail 1, detail 2. We're living in that ecosystem as well. So we're trying to leverage that familiarity, but also just give options, right? Like before we start converting one of these over from like a player cosmetic, or we start making a new one in the instance of these military uniform here that's not a player cosmetic, we definitely sit down, we think about which materials players would want to customize the most, what makes the most sense, what stops it from being too opinionated, like every single soldier has a fanny pack on them. That's why does every person in this city have a fanny pack? That's very interesting, right? So getting rid of, like, taking away some things and maybe adding that as a prop later, or adjusting things so that they're the most customizable for the creators versus being kind of like super consistent, but then like rigid and like locked into one way of doing things, and maybe too homogenous. One thing Sierra could show too is they're using that invis material. So maybe you did want to get rid of the fanny pack here.
Yes, let's see.
We made it a material slot. We made it a material slot so that you could get rid of that, right? So if you just search for invis, if you just search for invis,
just type
any
invis.
slot, you can kind of see what that slot does.
Poof, so fanny pack gone. If I remove this material, then it comes back again.
Yeah, we actually, with this one in particular, a little behind the scenes, we were actually talking about taking this Android like mechanical arm off and putting that arm as a skinned mesh that you could put onto anybody, more or less. There were some technical challenges and things we thought about. It's still on the table potentially that we would do things like that, but the goal is usually to like let people make something really good looking easier than it is to make something hard, or bad looking. Make it hard to make bad looking stuff is the goal, right? But that's not always easy.
Yes, indeed.
It takes a lot of back and forth and thinking about how to split these things up sometimes.
Alrighty. The only other thing that I did want to point out, it might be obvious to some people, but just if you are looking at the animation stance section, I'm talking with my hands, but now I know you can't see me. If you if you remove everything, oh yes, there you go, John. If you remove everything from there, you can get a drop down. That's all the options. So like you can use the core documentation, but you can just kind of pick from this list of various crazy poses and double click them, and then poof, it goes to it. You can increase the playback rate to something crazy and get bizarre,
terrifying,
ridiculous, terrifying animations. Yeah, perfect for a horror game.
I'm already afraid.
Yeah.
And so I guess you could point out, for just general overview of animated mesh stuff, is like a high level, like there's a difference between animation stance and animation to play. So the stances are typically things like idles, like he's here, he's stunned.
See how when I entered in that animation, it did it really quick, and then it goes back to the stance. Yeah.
Whereas like these are the one-off animations that you could play. So you could have the NPC running in a running stance or like idling, and then when you talk to him, you could play the talk animation or put it into the talk stance. I think we might have both, or one's coming. And so there's just a small differentiation there, just like to note, and there should be documentation kind of explaining that. But just for people who are have not seen the system very much yet, there's two different ways to make the characters, the NPCs animate. They're the animated meshes. Actually, you could boop over to my screen. I have one other little surprise thing, I suppose.
I love booping. Here we go. Boop.
It's still very dev and it's in progress, but this is a cape that has dynamics on it. Wow. So you'll be able to put the cape, and you can see on my properties here, it does have mesh slots. So if we had like 3 or 4 different capes that we supported, you could swap them out or put 2 on if you really wanted to. Right here for this test that we were prototyping, we have a tattered cape and a normal cape, a non-tattered cape. I don't want to say normal, but yeah, and it's got dynamics, and again, it has a skeleton. So I guess maybe Sierra and I both didn't show this. If you press V, you'll toggle the widgets in core, and you can be able to see the diamonds of where the bones are. And you could technically attach things to this, like spikes or thorns or fur or feathers or whatever you wanted to make different capes. And you could actually just hide this cape entirely and only attach stuff if you wanted to. And that's where
custom capes.
That's where the immutable skeleton will really become super useful, is that under the cape, you could see all the bones here, and you could drag stuff on and then be able to more easily move things around in 3D, but have it be locked to that bone without needing Lua at all. And Lua will still work. Obviously, you could attach things at runtime when you pick stuff up or whatever. But the goal is to make constructing characters just far, far easier in the coming patches.
So yeah, showed cape. Everybody liked that. Everybody loved that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So you can see the guy has a skeleton, or the Humanoid 2 has a skeleton here. And those are all the sockets that we support, similar to the original animated meshes. And each new animated mesh will have its own kind of skeleton structure. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I guess if we have more questions or if Sierra comes up with anything else she wants to show, the goal is really just to like show everybody that we are really wanting to push the feature to be more than just a one mesh thing you can't change into like a whole system, and it's going to grow over time, and we're going to continue to release content for it as it grows, basically.
100%. I don't have any more specific things to add other than don't be shy about feedback. Wow. I know I often see a lot of like big feature request type ads, but small things are cool too. Like, what does this specific detail on a material do? Or like, I don't know, I want to be able to change this one strap on a character. We might not always be able to do it, but like getting an idea of what people want always helps us continue to drive things.
Yeah, I would definitely say if we can't do the thing like, I wish this glove was slightly different colored or something, it's like, that, I mean, I understand. I like certain colored gloves too, but
well, in that case, they can change it. But
if we can't go change that one for you, we can definitely note it down and think about the next time we make a glove. Should the color be changeable? You know, that's what we can do at the very least. Besides actually going and rectifying like the direct problem if it's very specific or something. But definitely don't be shy to help us drive the feature. We have some really nice goals, I think, for it, but we're definitely open for the feedback.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And Diversity Craft looks like he has another great question. He asks, what about creating slots for accessories like glasses, hats, necklaces, watches, and let people have the ability to design assets and like put them in the glasses slot or the hat slot?
So currently the slots are really ambiguous. They just take they are not particular in any way, right? They are just a blank slot, right? So you could put the pants in slot 1, the shirt in slot 4, the head in slot 2. It doesn't matter. We also have a long-term goal of allowing you to say how many slots you want. Like, so maybe you only need 2 and that's more performant. And maybe on a certain character, you want like 6 or something, and that's going to be less performant, but you could choose to do that. That's a goal. Again, it's not there yet. Right now we just ship with 4 per animated mesh. So you do have to make some decisions there. And so just taking up a full slot just for a watch is not exactly like sustainable, I would say. And instead that watch could be made by any community member. Everybody could,
watchmaking.
You could make watches, you can make glasses, you can make hats out of Kit Bash stuff. And then those could be just statically attached to the bone for the wrist or the head very easily. And shared across all rigs and everything. Right? You could put a watch on the dragon if you wanted to by putting it under his wrist bone. So technically you will be able to do that, like making your own watches and hats and glasses like that. That's not a problem. And you just don't even have to use the mesh slot system. Instead, you can use the skeleton hierarchy when it's out. Or you can use the costume script right now to equip them kind of in the same way Sierra showed.
Yep. We can get a hat making jamboree going.
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, that might be worth doing a jam, some sort of costume character jam eventually. Okay. Once that amiibo skeleton drops, I want to see it.
We have one last question. This is from Stay Punny. Hi, Stay Punny, huge fan. Do you have a plan of adding animations like climbing or crawling?
I don't want to say we have a plan. I don't want to say we have a plan. I'm not the animator. I'm not the lead animator. And if I do say anything, I may disappear in the night. So I don't want to promise anything. But again, like I mentioned earlier, was just that we want all those things too. There's just like a limited amount of days in the year. And within those days, we have a limited amount of hours and things we want to get out that might be bigger or better than climbing and crawling, even as cool as those things are. So there's always less like a priority in juggling, and we definitely want to do that kind of stuff, that we're not like averse to it or like, no, nobody can crawl. More of just like a priority and time thing. And so, we're always trying to like shift those priorities around based on feedback and based on what creators need to make the best stuff that they want to make. So thank you we'll note that one down as +1 for crawling or climbing.
Heck yeah.
But that's 3:45. We kind of have a hard stop.
Yep.
So
says, everyone is already saying thank you. So that sounds great. All right, so
thanks for coming out.
Have to wrap it up, but thank you everyone for tuning in. And then Feature Creeper, Draco Wolfie, any closing thoughts?
You go first.
Have a wonderful day. I hope your weekend is amazing. Nothing relevant to the stream, but I hope you are feeling good.
Yeah, I'll just say that sorry if it was a little fast or I wasn't super detailed about how to use every feature of the animated meshes. Maybe we can do one in the future when that immutable skeleton drops. But really, we just released it as sort of like a big thing, but we didn't really announce a ton about it. And so we wanted to just get in front of some people and show them the system and like what our goals are and talk about the kind of the future of it. So hopefully that was enlightening. And again, also have a good day, like Sierra said.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I definitely can't top any of that. So I'm just going to say thanks, guys. And Feature Creeper and Draco Wolfie, thank you so much for joining me on Core Live today.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks for
and
having
we're
us.
signing
everybody.
off.